I've been developing it as much as I can. I've had comedians on, I've had some athletes on, musicians. I had Don Beebe on one time. That was a really cool one that I did.
Oh, very cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, guys,
So
here we go.
I've had all kinds of people come on.
Nice.
He's about to start the theme music, so I may not be able to hear you. But
Everybody riot, organized chaos, nobody quiet. We gon' try a seance. Communication and communion with the world's greatest icon. Station as a human, yet he's listening to my song. Hype John, this that no nigga with the bass and the bang. Make it do, yo, hit you with the five elements like five elephants. Let him know I'm relevant. I'm heaven sent, telling him we're from a whole nother galaxy.
all right, everybody, it's that time again. Happy Tuesday and welcome here to the Round Table, September 8th, 2020. Right here on HamiltonRadio.net, channel HR2. I am your host, John Brecco. And in recent weeks, what we've done is we've had a bunch of one-on-one conversations with comedians. We've had a bunch of them come in groups of like four or five, and just say a whole bunch of ignorant stuff. But tonight's show is going to be a little bit different. I have a guy who's involved in radio as well, and I've wanted to pick his brain on a lot of different stuff. So he is the voice of the Lions at LMU. Been doing that for about 8 years, you said?
Yeah. Finished up the 8th season back in March, which seems like a long time ago, even though it wasn't. But yeah, 8 seasons.
First of all, congratulations. Second of all, he's also an update anchor for the LA Rams, and he does a bunch of different podcasts of his own, which we're going to get into. This is Jesse Kass right here. So first of all, first thing I want to ask you is, how are you? How have things been through this time? Just how you doing in general?
Good, man. No, I'm really happy to be here. And I know we've been, kind of messaging back and forth. And yeah, excited to be here tonight. And no, things have been as good as they can be. We're luckily right here in LA, Playa del Rey specifically. We're pretty close to the beach, so we got some, open space to be able to go outside. My fiance and our 2-year-old golden retriever, it's pretty much the routine, lots of walks, like I said, trying to do these podcasts and then at least now enjoying some NBA basketball and playoffs and sports coming back. So it's a lot of that, but doing well. Yeah.
I do want to ask you first off, is he a dog that like swims a lot, or does he stay away from the water?
Oh man, he loves swimming. When he was 1 year old, we tried to get him introduced and he was terrified. We got him like a little swim lesson, and now we can't keep him out of the water.
I was about to say it must be hell trying to bring him back.
Yeah, no, he's got, he's pretty well trained. He's a good dog. Occasionally he'll run for the water, but usually he'll only go when we tell him. But he's a swimmer for sure. He'll swim all day if you let him. So we got to make sure to keep tabs on that and make sure he doesn't get too tired out there. But yeah, he loves it.
Because my mother has this little 10-pound wiener dog. He was 10 pounds anyway. She fattened him up because when she moved to Florida, she started feeding him all like sweet potatoes and all of that. So I think she like tripled his weight. But he loves to swim. If he wasn't as little as he was, they'd never be able to get him back because they're older. So, I mean, I don't even know how after all those sweet potatoes, he just doesn't sink right to the bottom. But it is what it is.
He's got surprising athleticism. Yeah.
Yeah, right. I do want to get into it right after talking about that fat ass dog. But, like we said, you've been the voice of the Lions for LMU men's basketball for 8 years. You just finished up your last season. You've got experience in broadcasting in basketball, football, soccer, volleyball, all kinds of different sports. And the thing that, a lot of people may not realize is that when you first start doing commentary for all these different sports, you may not know about it till hours beforehand. You may not know a damn thing about it. Like,
yeah.
I remember because I've done color commentary a couple of times, and I remember I had to do it while doing camera work. This was for a high school basketball game. And, I just remember not knowing any of the players, not knowing who was who. And I was trying to figure all this stuff out the day of, because that's when I was told I was doing commentary for it. Because, I didn't want to be out there like, blue shirt just took the ball from orange shirt. No, you just sound stupid. So, I remember learning all this beforehand. You have to be able to learn at least somewhat of an understanding pretty quickly. So my first question is, what was the hardest, sport for you to do when you started doing all these different sports?
Yeah, they all have their own unique challenges that they present. I think the one that kind of fits the description you were talking about, at least the first time I did it, was volleyball. Because, in terms of announcing the game versus just watching it offhand, that was definitely the one where I really had to kind of start from the basics, look up what the positions were, what the terminology was, how the point system worked. So that one, before I did it, a week before, whatever it may have been, when I, got the assignment to do it, I had no idea about any of it. So hopefully on that broadcast, it didn't seem that way. But yeah, that one was one of those where it was definitely difficult. Soccer as well, just kind of learning the terminology. Obviously basketball and football and baseball, they have their own challenges as well. But I feel like I have much more, comfort and familiarity with those. So that made it a little easier on those fronts. But like I said, they all have their challenges. Football, you have, a 55-man roster or whatever it is. Yeah. A lot of numbers and names to remember. So that's that challenge. Baseball, much slower, tempo and pace. You got to have a lot of stories. And then basketball, much faster, where you're kind of talking constantly. So they each have their own challenges. But yeah, that volleyball one sticks out as remembering, well, I really have to do some research and act like I know what I'm talking about here.
Yeah, no, definitely. I agree with you 100%. I was going to actually ask you about, the different paces and how some of the challenges might be for them. Basketball, you mentioned you were talking about all the time. Baseball, you had a lot of stories. It was slower, because all you're doing for a lot of it is just waiting for the guy to pitch the ball, on either side of the inning. Football, I feel like, would be the hardest one because the pace constantly switches. There's the 40 seconds between each play. Then you get everything happening at once. The lineman blocking, the ball getting thrown or run, and that always lasts about sometimes 4 or 5 seconds, sometimes 10. You never really know with the football play. So I had a feeling that football, and the only games I've done, I did a couple games of high school basketball, but I really feel like football would be the hardest one to get a hold of.
Yeah, no, football is definitely tough. And I forgot what the exact number is. And I know it differs from, high school and college to pro football. But for pro football, they obviously talk about, with all the production and the stoppages, like you said, I think there's only like 15 to 20 minutes of actual game time, and everything in between. And that 3-hour chunk is, like you said, in between the plays and everything you have to break down from there. So, on a radio side where you're doing a high school or a college football game where the production might not be quite as high, it could be challenging. But, everything in broadcasting comes down to having your comfort level. And I think preparation is always important, especially for football in particular, where, like I said, you're not going to memorize every single name and number with a roster that big, but just to have that familiarity where you can kind of catch it offhand. And like you said, not be saying, oh, number 55 in blue, and you can, connect it with the name a lot quicker.
Do you think it's important to have an understanding of the first 22 guys up when you're doing football? The guys on the offense and the guys on the defense. Do you think that should be your focus if you're going to give somebody advice to focus on those first 22 and have a basic understanding of that rather than, an understanding of all of it because it's massive?
Yeah, no, I would definitely start there because I think if obviously you're kind of playing the percentages, but you look at the rosters, you look at the stats, you want to see who, the big time performers are, who has the most catches, who throws for the most yards, who's most actively involved on the defensive end. So I think once you kind of get a gauge of that, you'll have a good idea of the numbers or the names rather you'll be calling a lot. So, like I said, I think preparation is important to know just kind of what those stats are. And it's also, stuff that you can have with you on site. I don't know if there's any broadcaster out there who doesn't have any other materials in front of them as well. So you don't have to feel pressured to know everything. You don't want to be reading a script while you're announcing the game, but just have those stats handy, kind of go over them in your lead up and your work up to the game, and then just be able to reference that when you need it. And I think that's that's an important tool to use when you're broadcasting games.
There's so much to really know in any sport that I can't even imagine somebody who doesn't come there with any papers. And this is, anybody that's been doing it for a while, just, got their foot in the door. I can't even imagine because, baseball, you got everybody in the dugout, which is 9 people. You got, the first 5 in basketball, but then you also got a bunch of guys on the bench, that might rotate in, because to be able to go for 40 minutes just jogging around, that's a lot on anybody's legs. So there's a lot to know when it comes to anything. So I can't even imagine somebody just going there with nothing and it going well, no matter how long you've been doing it.
Yeah, no, there's got to be some level of preparation and knowledge going in beforehand. And then, you want, when you're broadcasting the game yourself, like I said, you want to have that comfort factor and you want to be able to bring your own style. And that's something that a lot of I've made a lot of these connections and done what you're doing now and reached out to broadcasters that I've looked up to. And, there have been so many great people in this industry that are just willing to talk. And, I think a big part of it is willing to be comfortable and create your own style. You don't want to sound like you're imitating anyone else. You're of course going to pick up things here and there, but the people that really make it and do the best have, kind of unique styles and unique voices, and, trying to force yourself into a certain whole, certain type of voice or whatever, you shouldn't have to do that. You just be yourself out there, enjoy it. And I think that resonates with people when they listen, if you are really confident and know what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's what I try to do on here. Just be natural. Just talk to you like I would talk to somebody on the street. Not exactly how I would talk to somebody on my job because I got cuss words thrown in there everywhere. But
that's all right. I like it.
I was going to say, this isn't FCC regulated, so I could if I want to, but I want to try to keep that to a minimum tonight. I want to try to be good for this one. But
that's all right. If you need to let it go, that's all right. Usually on air, I'm not allowed to, so I can understand if it's cool. I'm with it if you need to do it.
I appreciate it. But I do want to ask because, you've been the voice of the Lions for basketball for so long. Was basketball always your favorite sport? Is it now? And if not, what is it? I'm guessing football because you mentioned that was the sport you were the most comfortable with, and then volleyball and soccer were, in the back a little bit.
Yeah, no, I mean, basketball, I think as far as knowledge, even more so than football, it's my sport basically. For my whole life, it's what I played. It's what my dad played. He played Division I. My uncle did. My cousin played D3. We all are huge, NBA fans, and it just kind of runs in the family. So basketball has always kind of had my heart. And then, just kind of naturally, I went to LMU for undergrad, and that's kind of where I started in my broadcasting journey. And, I think luckily for me, I got to start with some of these other sports that I wasn't as comfortable with. And then when I got the opportunity with basketball, it felt very comfortable right away just because I do love the sport so much. I know so much about it. I've played it. Basketball is definitely the one out of everything that I love. And I'm very fortunate to be in a place where I've been able to call basketball for a number of years.
Yeah, I do want to ask. I want to actually switch gears a little bit, because you mentioned, you played basketball for a number of years and you had a family, that could, play it as well. And I guess you could learn off of. So would you say your family is like the first people that you learned basketball from, and then your love just kind of grew from there?
Oh, no question. I would, highlight my dad first. like I said, he played, and he was the one who would always, put the game on and have all of us watching. Our family initially is from New York, so I feel like that kind of just has basketball ingrained in its culture as well. But definitely my family, because we moved out to Los Angeles when I was just a baby. So, he brought that love, and then, fortunately, we had the means to be able to have season tickets for the Clippers, even though they were awful at the time at the sports arena. We had seats that were very close. So just going to a lot of games when I was very young and just kind of continuing that, developing a love to play it, like I said, and then it just kind of all went into one. But yeah, it came from my family. It's not only my dad, my sisters love the game. Like I said, my cousin, my uncle. So it's ingrained in the family for sure. And definitely passed down from my dad initially.
Your family sounds like a basketball team by itself. Sheesh.
Yeah, we're a small family, but we can get a 5 out there at least. So it's something.
All right, let me ask you this. You said you moved to Los Angeles when you were a baby. I don't know exactly how old you are, but be honest. Did you guys move out there because James Dolan took over the Knicks? Be honest with me.
Well, now, it's good to be far away, but we moved. I'm 32 years old now, so luckily, or unluckily, or unfortunate for me, because I feel like I got spoiled off that for the Knicks, because they were good when I was a kid in the 90s. So it's like, wow, this is great. I've fallen in love with this team that plays with so much heart. And, obviously, I believe it was 2001, Dolan took over, or around that time, and then things have not been good for about 20 years. So, it's an unfortunate situation there. Like I said, luckily, I kind of have been able to claim 2 teams. The Clippers have obviously presented plenty of pain over the years as well, and their own ownership issues in the past. But at least there is a team that I can watch that's good now, finally. I think we're all waiting on things to change in the Knicks situation and get back to some kind of relevance and exciting basketball, because it's been far too long.
See, I'm a Sixers fan because I'm a Philly sports-based guy. I'm 45 minutes out from Philly. I have been pretty much my entire life. But my heart hurts for the Knicks. I go up to New York all the time. I do comedy up there constantly, or I was before the pandemic really kicked in. Yeah. But I still perform with these guys all the time on Zoom, Facebook Live, Instagram Live, social media, wherever we can. But my heart hurts for the Knicks because of how often I go to New York City. Listen, I go by the Knicks Stadium where they play more than I go by Atlantic Avenue. I've only gone by Atlantic Avenue a handful of times. And so it just hurts my heart when I go down there. And I'm a Philly-based sports fan. Yeah. So it hurts to even think about, really.
I appreciate it. And, that's, I think, as you, like you said, from Philly, can appreciate and understand that I think both Philly and New York fans are, to a fault, to our own pain, very loyal. So, that's the one thing about Knicks and their fans is that, they're going to stick it out until this thing turns. And even if it takes 50 years, whenever it does turn, it's going to be great. But it's been a rough time for the Knicks for a long time.
I became an Eagles fan when I was 10 years old, and let me tell you, it was hell to see them, lose year after year after year. I cried when they finally won that Super Bowl. I'm going to be honest with you. I was drinking the entire time, during the game, because this is the first Super Bowl I've seen them in a decade plus. But I was crying, man. It was an emotional night. I got a cheesesteak after in Philadelphia with about 3 friends. So, I think it ended up being all right. Most people are going out there tipping cars, tearing flags down, when they win the Super Bowl, because Philly fans riot. They don't win much. So I think the fact that I got out of there with just a cheesesteak is pretty cool.
Hey, you're more than welcome to a number of cheesesteaks and however many tears you need after that. I understand the waiting game. So, I would probably feel the same way that you did, and whenever that would happen.
I'm fat too, man. I will have as many cheesesteaks as I can put into my body. Listen, I'm so fat, if Patrick Mahomes, every time they see Patrick Mahomes play football, I just think of the Hawaiian Punch Kid. That's how fat I am, okay?
No, man, you're looking good. It's all good. We're all in the quarantine body right now. I haven't been eating that well either. So, we all have an excuse until we're able to really get back to normal.
The COVID-19. That's what that is.
Yeah,
but,
it's just a little extra than the freshman 15. It's all right.
Of course I look good. You can only see me from the neck up. I got the body of Patrick Star. You don't want me to get up. But, you spent years as a color commentary analyst for the Lions as well. So I do want to ask a little bit about that, because the analysts, they're the ones doing the post game, if I'm not mistaken, right? Taking care of stuff like that.
Yeah. So, I mean, it, obviously can vary from school to school or network to network, wherever you may be. For LMU, the setup for me, which was very fortunate for me and a lot of other students that have, developed their career that way. They have students who are signed up to basically do pregame, halftime, and postgame on the radio. Just across from the arena, there's a radio station, basically on the other side of campus. So that's what I did for a little while as a student, and then the color commentary side of things was basically announcing the games as I do now, but alongside Jeff Lampe, who was the play-by-play announcer for a number of years, 11 years prior to when I took over. And very fortunately for me, incredibly nice and kind of showed me the ropes of things. He taught me a lot. I got to sit there next to him and, basically like you would in a broadcast. Obviously, it's in pro sports, it's more filled by ex-athletes at this point. But, I played the role of what you would hear any analyst, whether, Mike Breen has his Mark Jackson and Jeff Van Gundy, Mark Jones has his Hubie Brown or Doris Burke. So, in that role, just providing commentary for the live games and, occasionally, picking up some post-game interviews. But, commentary for the live games.
All right. So what would you find more challenging if you had to pick? Would it be on the analyst side of things, doing the pregame or the postgame? Or would it be actually doing the play-by-play?
I think play-by-play is probably the more difficult skill, or at least the one that's harder to pick up initially. Like I said, they all have their difficulties, but I think play-by-play, just for the sheer speed of it, at least on the radio side, which is what I have most of my experience in. For radio, you're not only describing the action on the court, but you're describing kind of directionals. You're trying to paint the picture. So left wing 3-pointer, the teams are going left to right into the front court, down the lane to the basket, all that stuff that you can kind of let the viewers see on television, you're describing on the radio. So I think those are things that you have to learn initially. I didn't know that when I first started, and, kind of picking up from other people, their tricks. And, it can be very intricate, which, could be surprising to some people, but I think play-by-play, has a lot of those intricacies and can be tough, but it's something that I really love.
What are some of the tricks that you learned from commentating alongside Jeff Lampe? What are some of the most important things that he taught you?
Well, I think, one of the first things he taught me was just kind of his pace, because while it is very fast, you don't want to feel like you're running to catch up with the play. You can kind of, as you're explaining it, let things develop at the same time. And, if a basket's put in while you're explaining something, you can give it the half a second and explain, put in by Williams on the floater, not feeling rushed to necessarily do that. And kind of like I said before, having your own unique style and stamp on things. He was a king with all of his catchphrases and, just his excitement and his enthusiasm. So just, I try not to force any catchphrases if they don't come organically. I think, you could tell his were natural and that he was genuinely excited in the moment. So I just try to kind of to follow on those leads and bring the excitement to the game, bring knowledge to the game. And if there is a catchphrase in there, then, let it fly and pepper it in there whenever you can.
You see, I'm a big pro wrestling fan, and a lot of those guys have catchphrases. Jim Ross back in the day going, "By God," whenever, something crazy would happen. Somebody falls off a ladder, gets hit
Jim
with
Ross was a great one. Oh, what the hell? Yeah.
Yeah. Jerry the King Lawler's got some. Even Mauro Ranallo, he does NXT today. The guy's Italian. You can tell from his name. He goes, Mamma Mia! That one's just awful. But
yeah, some of them don't work, and you try it, and hopefully you have enough sense to know if you do it and it's a bad one, you just kind of ditch it. But sometimes you just got to throw it out there and see if it catches on or not.
see, honestly, he's such a good announcer, though. He knows all the moves. He announces a bunch of different things, move for move. He can keep up with the action. So he's so good of an announcer that, the bad catchphrase is kind of negated, if I'm being honest. At least that's how I've looked at it as a pro wrestling fan. But, I mean, that's just my opinion. But I do want to transition to some of the podcasts that you've done as well. And two of them in particular were with former NBA players. So I'm sure, just like you did with your family, you got to learn a lot about basketball from their end as well. The first one was After the Game with Gary Payton, former point guard, was with the Seattle Supersonics for, I believe, almost 15 years, somewhere between 10 and 15. And then you've got On the Rebound with Jason Williams, who had a 10-year career in the NBA in his own right. I forget if he came back one year or not, though. But what's one thing you learned about basketball from each man, conversing with them, watching them on the podcast, whatever? What's one thing you learned from each man?
Yeah, I mean, from Gary Payton, such an amazing guy. And, I was very young, just out of college when he gave me that opportunity. And it was initially just kind of like a side producing thing. And he could tell I at least knew what I was talking about and, gave me the trust of kind of jumping on the show. But from him, not surprisingly, I just learned about kind of the trash talking aspect of the game. And, one of the more surprising and funny stories that he told when we were talking on the air was, I asked him, because most people consider Gary Payton to be one of the best, if not the best trash talkers out there. What's a moment that stands out to him? Who were the best trash talkers that he played against? And he said, Larry Bird was the one that stood out to him, and that Bird would tell the defender, I'm going to back you down into the corner. I'm going to turn over this shoulder. I'm going to hit a 20-footer in your eye. And he would go and do that move and make the shot. So, just learning about the trash talking from Gary is one thing. And then, Jason Williams, I just learned about, kind of the, his love for the game. I feel like there's so much to learn about basketball, but from him, just talking to him and talking about his playoff battles, he was on a couple of Nets teams that ended up going up against, Michael Jordan and the Bulls. So kind of the intensity and the level of basketball that he saw. So those are a couple of things that, that stood out to me in those times.
When you mentioned like trash talking and, like intensity, I guess, in a way as well. I do want to get your take on The Last Dance. What's a hot take that you could take away from that little juicy Netflix 10-episode thing going on?
Let's see, a hot take from it. I mean, I guess it could be a hot take now. I don't know if it is. I know there's a lot of people that have, are saying LeBron James is the greatest of all time, but it just solidified in my mind, which I don't think it needed to be, that, and this is no disrespect to LeBron, who I probably have as number 2 at this point, but I think Michael Jordan is far and away the best player of all time. And I was lucky, even though I was young, to get a chance to see him see him in person and watch him on TV growing up. And, it's just such a level of basketball consistently that I don't think we've seen from anyone else, that, there's no hesitation in saying that he's the GOAT. And, I think in all these clips where you saw, if he did lose a game, like the clip where they lost that game 1 to the Hornets and Michael Jordan swinging the bat in the locker room, the cigar, just unfazed by anything. So, I just think he's the best ever. And it was, that documentary was really, I felt pumped and ready to run through a wall pretty much after every episode.
I bet. Honestly, when I saw it, I heard a bunch of, the feedback after, and a lot of the negative stuff caught my attention, which I try to stay away from it. But you hear the Michael Jordan haters, and they're just like, oh, he was mean, he was nasty, because he loved what he did, and he took it very, very seriously. He took pride in what he did. I believe more than anybody who's ever done it, and like you said, that's been the most consistently great. I would say one of the consistently best athletes overall in sports altogether. Not even just basketball. One of the most consistently great athletes of all time. The guy never lost a finals. Every time he would lose a game, he would be absolutely unfazed, and he'd come back the next night better than ever. But that kind of caught my attention a little bit. Oh, he was mean. He was nasty.
I will give you a hot take that just popped in my mind since we were talking about the Knicks, and that one was the only really painful thing to watch back. 93 when the Knicks were up 2-0. The Knicks should have won that series. That's the hot take. They were there were battles with other teams, but that was the real chance for someone to take Jordan and the Bulls out. 2-0 lead in that series. And then, of course, the Charles Smith game with all the blocks and missed layups at the end where, they could have taken control. But, they obviously ended up beating the Bulls when Jordan retired in 94 the next year and getting to the finals. But 93, they had their shot, and they just couldn't quite capitalize. And that's obviously the greatness of Jordan. There's many Hall of Fame, all-time great players who were denied championships because of how great Michael Jordan was.
You don't see LeBron being that consistent in the finals. for everybody that's on LeBron's coattails, excuse me, check yourself. I wasn't even born the time he was winning with the first three-peat with the Bulls, but I can understand that. There were so many great moments that he had during his time with the Bulls, and even as he was getting older, the amount of the level of play that he was keeping up, even as he was getting to 40. The time with the Trailblazers especially. But always great, consistent level of greatness, always.
Yeah, even in the a lot of people make fun of the Wizards years, but he was.
I said Trailblazers. Wow. Oh my God. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. That's all good. But yeah, those years he averaged 20 points a game at 40 years old after taking 2-3 years off. So his level is outstanding. And I think it's great to appreciate greatness no matter where it is. And even if you're rooting against LeBron James, appreciating his greatness as well for how incredible he is and what he's doing at his age. He's still one of the best, if not the best in the game right now. So, whoever you favor, it's just appreciate what you're watching when you watch all of these guys, because it's they don't always come around often.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. Definitely. What'd you think of his baseball career, though? That just popped in my head right now, so I'm curious.
That's funny because I was talking with my friends about the Last Dance documentary, and a couple of them, they played high school and college baseball, and that was the part of the documentary that they were critical of. They're like, all right, I don't know if we need to glorify someone hitting 200 in the minors, even if they had been playing other sports. So they thought it was a little generous, but obviously anytime you're trying to play a different sport professionally, just out of nowhere, I'm sure you're going to struggle.
That's hard.
I don't think he was the best baseball player at that point. It was good that he tried it and went back to basketball, but he's Michael Jordan. He can do what he wants.
He tried to be another Bo Jackson. That's what he tried to do.
Exactly.
We tried to have another Bo Jackson moment, and it came with success, but limited success. It got him a documentary.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. It helped get him a documentary. That's the one thing I will say about it. But I do want to switch to some of the other shows that you've done. You mentioned an online sports podcast that had nearly 7,000 fans on Facebook. You do a monthly talk show, NBA talk show, 3-Man Weave on Bronx.net TV. I didn't find too much on that when I was trying to prepare for the show. So tell me a little bit about the online sports podcast. Tell me a little bit about 3-Man Weave, because that's some of the stuff that I didn't really get to see too much on that I want to know about.
Yeah, Listen Up was the sports podcast that I did with my friend Scott Heineman out of college. Obviously, I think we used a podcasting service called Podomatic, and once it was once we stopped paying the monthly fee, all the episodes were going off the internet. But I have all the copies, so I can dig those up somewhere. But yeah, that was the sports podcast where we would talk about pretty much anything and everything. It was NBA, MLB, NFL, and just once a week we'd try to bring in guests if we could. We had, Gary Payton was kind enough to come on that show. We had a number of guests who were really awesome. Spiro Ditas, who's doing some of the playoffs for TNT right now. Mike Smith, who did color commentary for the Clippers and now the Jazz. So just a lot of great people coming on the show talking about sports. And then Three-Man Weave. We've been on hiatus, pretty much not doing it during COVID, but once a month talk show, all of those episodes. Just recently I put those up on YouTube, so you can check that out. Three-Man Weave. You can go to, Jesse Kass, my YouTube page, or jessekass.com. It's available on there with all the episodes on YouTube. But monthly NBA talk show, me and two guests. For the most part, my co-host, Niken Robinson, who is a great guy. He played basketball at UCLA and Cal. He's actually an actor now, but incredible guy. And we've had great guests on as well. And we have either a beer or wine, and we toast and talk some sports. Just supposed to be like your organic talking with your friends about basketball. So that's Three-Man Weave. Like I said, it was exclusively on BronxNet for a while, but I was able to get those episodes up on YouTube and have them available for everyone out there.
First of all, I got two things. I want to say that was a nice job you sneaking that shameless plug in there. I saw that. Second of all, you did a horrible job of trying to sneak past. I could see your back through the screen. I saw that, like, you saw that, like, right in the bottom of it. It was just like a little wave.
It was very smooth. If you weren't looking for it, you could be like, oh, I don't know, that was just like some lighting in the background. But it was a great effort, and I appreciate the go in low aspect of it. It was good.
It's the pink shirt that I think made the light pop a little bit.
Yeah. There we go. Nicely done. Nicely done.
I was gonna say that's like about a 4.640 right there. You saw that explosion. Yeah. I love it.
That's combine worthy. I would get signed up immediately.
Bro, I saw the arms going with that and everything. Like, there was no wasted motion in that 3-yard run. It was beautiful.
That's speed I could never even get close to. So it's impressive.
Yeah. I saw the catwalk after that. It's so slow a comparison. And it doesn't help that he's fat too, and he's very wide. So, you just see it like all kind of wiggle around in different places. He's a 20-pound cat. He's a big dude. That's
a big guy. He can, we're talking about combine. He can give you a little fullback action. He can give you some linebacker. He's got some build. I like it.
Definitely. Yeah. No, because him and my other cat will fight sometimes. My other cat's about 10 pounds. So anytime you see him, just like throw one of these, the way cats do, just smack the shit out of him, it just falls backwards. It's like automatic. And God forbid he actually tries to wrestle him. He's getting tossed somewhere. We're not going to be able to find him for like an hour because of where he gets tossed. But no, yeah,
the life of cats and stuff.
That's a jacked up cat right there if I've ever seen one. I think he's eating right now. Of course he is.
Awesome. Yeah. Well, like I said, I got my man Jack, my golden retriever. He's out there somewhere. He's a good one too. He'll. Yeah. Like I said, I don't know, fighting wise, he's a little more submissive. He just kind of gives the paws up and lays down, but he's a good boy.
A lot of times big dogs are like that because, if you have this Great Dane going and biting people and, always, coming to you with his paws and his nails and all that, it's not going to go good, especially if they got kids. You got a Great Dane trying to go play with the kid, just like, whoosh. That's a problem just waiting to happen.
Yeah, for sure.
You're also an update anchor for the Los Angeles Rams. If you're able to, explain how, that's different from color commentary, just being an update anchor. You mentioned the post-game interviews with being an analyst. An update anchor does that also, but explain how that's different from doing just commentary in general.
Yeah, so that was a really fun and unique experience. Right now, unfortunately, with COVID, won't be able to do that for this season. But yeah, this past season, the last one at the Coliseum, basically the position entailed you go there on game day. You get your credential, you go up to the press box, and then basically you're sitting there observing, watching the game, kind of taking notes. And whenever there's a touchdown or a key injury, essentially call into our hotline or number at ESPN Radio and connect with the producers of the show going on there. And they'd say, all right, hold on a minute, patch you into the hosts, and then you basically get your 20, 30 seconds, whatever it may be. They say, hey, we have Jesse Kass with an update on the Rams and the Titans. And then you have, basically they patch you in, and then you're on the air explaining, what happened, what the play was, what the injury was. And then, like you said, post game, you're going down to the field for the final couple minutes of the game, and then into the winning team's locker room, try to grab a player who made an impact on the game, see if they're willing to talk, and patch them through the station. But it's fun. It was exciting. It's a really cool experience to get to be in that NFL atmosphere and kind of get a look at different things, the press box, being on the field, in the locker room setting. So that was very cool experience, and one that hopefully can get another chance at some time in the near future.
What are some of the differences between a basketball environment and a football environment, you think?
I mean, I think size is one initially. Obviously, there can be packed basketball games, but, especially on the college level where I do, you have LMU games where it can be, if it's during winter break, for example, and there's no one there, it could be 100 people. Or if it's packed, it'll be 4,000 or 5,000 people. Yeah. Or occasionally, if you go to a big arena, like when LMU in conference plays BYU, like an NBA sized arena, 18,000 people. So football, of course, anywhere from 40 to 50 to 60,000 people in attendance. Yeah. You've got kind of more of the tailgating culture, although they'll be drinking at basketball games too. But the rowdiness, the drinking, there's obviously different elements to each that present their own exciting things. But I think just the sheer size and magnitude for football obviously is a little more of a spectacle.
Yeah. You think it's more of a rowdy atmosphere for the football game too?
Yeah, no, I think it can depend on, obviously the crowd and where you are. For you and your Eagles games, I'm sure those get pretty wild.
Oh my God.
And then, you see, football, yeah, you see it. I think, like I said, the tailgating aspect of things kind of can bring that up. And then depending on the game, if it's a rivalry, if it's a close game, if there's fans that are in the same section that have been drinking too much and get into a fight, there's so many things in football that take place. But like anything, playoffs or anything like that, it's going to be more intense in both sports. And, different cities and crowds will be a little bit better than others in different circumstances.
I'll admit it. We are some of the worst fans in all of sports. Philadelphia Eagles fans. I will 100% admit that. Only thing worse is a Cowboys fan, honestly. But
that sounds fine to me. We can agree on that.
We are some of the worst fans in sports. I'll admit it. I'm probably about half the cause of it.
I was going to say, are you one of the guys? Did you boo Santa Claus? Was that you?
I didn't boo Santa Claus. I didn't do that. I was going to say, my dad looks like Santa Claus. So for all I know, I could have been booing my dad when he's trying to make a name for himself on national television. But no, I didn't boo Santa Claus. With me, and, I've been a big football fan. I played in high school. That's my sport. But, and the thing, I'm switching topics a little bit, but I'm a little bit jealous about how you got to learn from your family. I was over here trying to be different. My dad played soccer. My mom played softball. And I'm over here trying to be different. I got nothing to bounce off of, except, when I tried freshman year, little skinny 140-pound me trying to be a lineman because I'm not fast enough to be a receiver, bouncing off literally everybody else. I did get a little bit better though, through a couple of years of work. So
I'm sure you were out there, like Chris Berman, rumbling, bumbling, stumbling, knocking through the
yeah,
defenses.
buddy. He gets it. But yeah, no, you get tired of being smacked around after a while. So, you do put the work in to get better because you don't want to go through that every day. But
Yeah, I was not nearly tough enough to play football, so I give you all the kudos and credit for that.
I didn't realize how much it wears you down, even through, a few months. Because when you're in high school, the season ends in November. You see, I didn't play college because nobody wants a 5'6" right tackle. So, but even, through August until November, the season just wears you down. Like, you would have no idea until, you actually get through a whole season. It's crazy. The only thing I think compares to that is wrestling, because you're wrestling, different guys that are around your weight class and practice every day. You're slamming each other to the mat, and a match is no different. Honestly, if I had to say, wrestling practices are the most realistic practices because you're going back and forth one-on-one with somebody. But
Yeah.
I'm having fun talking sports with you, man. I know that because I'm getting off topic.
That's all right. That's, this is all, it's all on topic. It all works, so no problem.
It is all sports, so I guess that's true. But you also did Football Frenzy and Operation Football when you were a part of the LA Rams. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's all part of the same basically setup that I was telling you about. Those were the shows basically that we would connect with and call into
Okay.
and have our updates broadcast through. So, depending on if it was a day game or a night game, Monday night or Sunday night, those would be the shows that would be airing on the ESPN national radio that would have us kind of interject with our updates whenever we were able to provide them.
Okay, gotcha. That makes sense. I was wondering how the shows were connected to giving updates. So, yeah, I appreciate you clarifying on that because when I was looking, I saw that it was involved somehow. I just didn't know how it was. So I was curious about that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, it's all basically broadcast through those shows for the most part.
Okay. So I do want to ask this, especially for anybody that might listen that's trying to get their foot into the door in broadcasting in any way, shape, or form, or even just in radio. What's advice that you'd give really anybody trying to break into radio right now?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of things that, would probably be the advice that I would give. One of them is doing what you're doing right now. And that's, as you've kind of detailed through the stuff that I've been doing, is similar. Put yourself out there, whether it's a radio show, whether it's a podcast, whatever your passion is, whether, it's finding a way to do updates or whatever it may be, get out there and put your voice out there, because I think getting the reps in is extremely important. I thought I was good when I first started, and I listened back and it was pretty awful, pretty terrible. So by comparison, and, putting that work in, it is really important, even if you do have, kind of the basic foundational skills, in talent and broadcast. And I think getting those reps in is really important. Yeah. And then I would also say, developing as many connections as possible. I still, don't think I've made it as far as I want to by any means, but having the ability to talk to so many people like I have through these years, since graduating, since becoming a broadcaster, has been tremendous. So there's been great people who have been happy to give advice, and, don't be nervous or shy about doing that. I've had the chance to talk to, like I said, Spiro Ditas was a great guy. Brian Seaman, who just became the TV announcer for the Clippers. He had been on radio for the past decade, really. He's been an incredible, friend and resource for me. Ralph Lawler, the great Clippers broadcaster who just retired as well. Reaching out to all of these people, even if it's just for a phone call or for, a show like this, to get their input in how they made it, because that's kind of the unique and sometimes unfortunate aspect of this business. There's not any one way to hit or succeed or get where you want to go. And I've obviously learned that as well. So just learning how people have maneuver their way through the business, what they have done, I think is always important, and just continuing to reach out and try to have those connections, every single step of the way.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I think for me is, one of the things that keeps bringing me back, because everybody has a different path, and I think this expands to the entertainment industry as well with comedy. There's, so many people who have done it so many different ways, and you meet so many people doing it that, there's just all kinds of different viewpoints to go off of, and you never stop learning. And that's something I think that always brings me back and keeps me really excited just to do it.
Yeah, no question. And, like you said, you'll be surprised at just sometimes the generosity of people. And, I had a chance to do a game earlier this season, which Steve Lavin, the former UCLA coach, who's now doing color commentary on TV games, was, sitting next to me for the TV broadcast on the same side of the table, asking me a lot of questions about LMU, because obviously that's, the team I broadcast for, and was able to, connect with him, stay in touch, join him at one of his days at Fox Studios and see the college basketball broadcast they do there. So, there are really great people out there who are willing to, if not, fully help with a position, they're going to give you advice. They're going to, at least bring you in and show you how things work. And I think that's exciting and can be important.
Yeah, and it's helpful 100%. I think if I had to go off of what you were saying a little bit for advice for really anybody, and, I think I could even take this myself, always look at every piece of advice you get, whether it leads to, a position somewhere or not, as both a lesson and a blessing, because, like I was saying, there's always something that you can learn. There's always something new to pick up. And even if it doesn't lead to something right away, that may help you later on.
Yeah, no question about it. And I think not getting discouraged. There's been plenty of times in my time, like I said, I still feel like I have a ways to go. And, Brian Zeman for the Clippers told me this too. There was a year where he made a very small amount of money when he was first starting out as well. And, it can be like that in this business. So if you have supportive family and friends who, know that it's going to could be tough for a while, but if you're really invested in interested and feel like you have the talent to do it, then definitely pursue it and kind of hunker down and try to get through it. But it's like I said, it's a difficult business, but there's a lot of great people and rewarding things in the business.
If you're truly passionate about it, whatever it is you do in life, honestly, you're going to keep coming back. When I look at a role model in comedy, I think of Steve Harvey. He kept going on stage over and over and over, even after, the guy was living in his car for 3 years. And look what that turned into. Multiple TV shows, some of the funniest comedy of the 90s.
Yeah.
And, I look at stories like that for inspiration. I haven't gone and lost the house I live in or anything. I'm pretty blessed, really, when I think about it, even if I've still got a long way to go before, I really make an impact on the radio industry as well. But, I think that also kind of leads back to what I was saying about just taking everything as a lesson and a blessing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And like you said, I think something you were talking about that's important is passion. And I can tell that you have that for, radio and comedy, and those are things that are going to take you a long way, because there are, in any industry, there are going to be people that, think they're passionate or feel like they should get somewhere just because they're them. But if you truly have the passion and the desire, then that gives you a great, kind of leg up and step up to get where you want to be. So I can tell you have that. And, you got a great radio personality, a great personality in general. So this has been really cool. And, I would definitely feel encouraged about where you're headed.
All right. So I definitely want to ask you a couple of current sports questions before we go. Is that all right?
Yeah, of course.
All right. Ruben, also, I apologize if I go a little bit over on time. I kind of felt like I over-prepared for this, but it's all good. But,
You're fine.
what sport do you think, when this is all said and done, do you think will have had the biggest challenge getting through this? You've had baseball, which was having trouble with negotiations in the beginning. Then they had cases of COVID-19 pop up when they restarted their season. You've got basketball that's really just trying to finish its season. And you've got the NFL, who's been dealing with this since the days of the 2020 draft, which they had to do virtually, like a lot of things have had to happen this year. They canceled their preseason also, and many athletes in all the sports just opted out of playing altogether for, the safety of themselves, the safety of their families, whatever. So what sport do you think, when this is all said and done, will have had the biggest challenge?
Yeah, I'm genuinely worried about football, and I know it's coming this weekend, and there's so much excitement about it, and I'm excited to see it as well. But just from the sheer number of players on rosters alone, and then you think about coaches and cameraman and everything you have to do to into the stadium. Basketball, of course, as you said, has made it work initially right now by creating the bubble, and they'll certainly have their own challenges when they try to do a full season for the next one. But we've seen, like you said, in baseball too, teams getting basically temporarily shut down for a couple of games or a couple of weeks because they're still traveling and bopping around and playing with full rosters. And you kind of just expand that with football, kind of double the roster size. Of course, close contact, tackling all the time. Baseball, you can at least generally have some space. So I think but football I'm worried about because there's all those reasons, the roster size, the close contact, the everything, the travel. They're going to play because football, I don't want to say they don't care about player safety in general, but they always get after it no matter what. So they're going to try to push through this thing, but I definitely have my worries and my doubts that the season will go off without a hitch.
And they took about 5 years to care about Black Lives Matter, so I'm not even surprised. But, I agree with you because there's so much physicality in the game.
Yeah.
I really wonder how the hell baseball keeps getting all these COVID-19 cases when that's basically a socially distant sport. That's the thing I find mind-boggling. NBA, there's nothing. You got all these different cases. When you've got 60-foot distance between bases, they added a 0 on top of that 6 for you. You're still getting all these cases. Come on, man.
Man, I think it's the travel. Just going from different city to different city, and I think baseball initially, like the NBA, tried to throw out whether a bubble or 3 bubbles, and they probably should have done it. The playing in the home stadiums is nice, but anytime you hop on a plane in this current climate and environment, there's that risk of one person getting it, and then obviously we know it can spread from there. So I think the game itself, like you said, lends itself to it as well as anyone could. But if they're continuously going from city to city, then that makes it tough.
Yeah, definitely. That's 100% true. But I do want to make sure we get into some basketball since you are a big basketball guy. I feel like since the restart has happened, there's been a lot of shocking moments that, have surprised all kinds of different people. The Lakers going on a losing streak before the playoffs got underway. That I found very shocking. But I look, honest, that's one of the things I look back at, and it's not super surprising to me because so many teams had their momentum stopped that really anything could have happened. But, these playoffs as well, you got Miami Heat going up to a 3-0 start against the Bucks, who by all rights should get knocked out of the playoffs now. You've got
I think they lost tonight, so they're done. That's
they lost tonight?
Yeah.
Wow. Honestly, that before, COVID and everything happened, that was the team I was thinking was going to win the chip this year. I really was. They were on just such a roll. They were destroying everybody in sight. I think they won 19 out of 20 games at one point during this season. So, it's crazy that they're the ones out, especially with how Giannis has looked all year.
Yeah, I mean, obviously this most recent game, Giannis did not play with a sprained ankle, so that made it tough on them. But like I said, they just got outplayed in that series, and that was a big surprise to me too. I did think it would be a really competitive series, but with how good the Bucks had been all year long, I kind of thought this was their year to get out of the East. Everything kind of seemed to be falling into place with, Kawhi Leonard going from the Eastern Conference to the West, and of course LeBron not being in the Eastern Conference anymore, and Boston, who is obviously still very good, could potentially in a normal circumstance feel like they're a player away, but the Bucks, I think it just reemphasizes how much of a difference there is between regular season and playoff basketball, because the Bucks just dominated the regular season so much. But when the game kind of grinds in the playoffs a little bit, teams can pack the paint a little more, make it tougher on Giannis, and force these other guys to beat them. It obviously made it tougher. And, that was a big surprise for me. The Phoenix Suns doing their 8-0 in the bubble was certainly a surprise as well. But as far as, playoffs, the Bucks thing was the first real kind of shocker for me. Everything else feels like it's kind of gone according to plan, at least for the teams that are remaining. But it's been fun. I think I've been also surprised just how high the quality of basketball has been. I've really enjoyed it. It feels like just watching a normal game, despite, the no crowd. The level of basketball has been amazing. So I've been loving it.
First of all, you mean the cardboard crowd and the automated cheering.
Yes.
Bro,
no cardboard crowd, the virtual fans, and the automated cheering.
This is my hot take on baseball. I'm going to switch it up for a second, and then we're going to get back to this. Here's the thing with baseball. If you have become a fan of baseball in the past 40 years, that is the first time you have heard that much cheering in your life. Honest to God. Because I feel like baseball is kind of taking a step down from being a main sport. I almost feel like football or basketball is one of America's pastimes now. But that's another thing. That's going to be weird when football comes back. You see this big-ass stadium that can fit 60,000 people, and you got all these cardboard cutouts and automated cheering. In that big of a stadium, you got all that going on with no fans. That's going to feel that in a way it's going to feel weird to me. Also, I want to say, because pro wrestling also did something, WWE, they did something, where they have a lot of fans watching online, and they'll kind of put their pictures like up on a screen, and they'll be going like all the way around. And you hear automated cheering there as well. For WWE also hasn't heard that much cheering in about 10, 15 years. I want to say that right now. And I've been a big wrestling fan for that long of a time, so I was getting around there right when the cheering was, beginning to stop.
Yeah,
I blame
I was a big wrestling fan growing up, but it's been a little while.
Yeah, you understand then. You completely understand. I love it. But there's other there's other things that kind of shocked me, going forward as well. The Mavericks putting up the fight they did against the Clippers. I thought maybe they had a chance at one point, and I couldn't have seen the Mavericks beating the Clippers before, the Clippers finally got those last two games. But there was that, I'm surprised the 76ers got swept, even with all the issues that was happening. I wouldn't have been surprised if they lost. The sweep, was what was really shocking to me.
Yeah, I was surprised by the sweep too. Like you said, I think it was a tall task with Ben Simmons hurt. But certainly not winning a game was surprising to me. The Dallas Clippers thing, I think I had Clippers winning in 5 and it went 6. And, Dallas put up a great fight. Their offense was prolific. Doncic was incredible. And I think you saw the Clippers, a couple of things. Missing Patrick Beverley, who, a lot of people don't realize how important he is to that team. Their record when he doesn't play is just about 500. When he does, they're, among the best in the league. So they missed him. And I think they also just which has been a little bit of an issue during the year, kind of went up and down with their energy level, where you would see them take a 20-point lead in a couple of games and then let go of the rope a little bit and blow those games. So I think their focus was an issue. But Dallas is a talented team, and anytime you have a top 5, top 10, whatever Doncic is going to be or is player, it makes it tough. And he's clearly, that next superstar for the NBA.
Mm-hmm. People have been comparing him to Larry Bird, and I agree 100%. I would like to see a little bit more trash talking, like we mentioned before, if we're going to compare him to Larry Bird, though. You're right. He's one of the best trash talkers, if not the best to ever do it. We talked about Jordan, too. I'd put him right up there with Larry Bird. But I would love to see Doncic just start talking trash to everybody. I feel like that would be beautiful. But
I think it's coming. He's a young guy. I think
so?
We've seen it before a little bit. He loves to scream and complain about every foul call. So I think it's in there. Just gonna channel it into trash talk.
Yeah, it's got to take a few more years for him to get comfortable. Like you were saying, he's got to get his reps in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Got to get his reps in 100%.
Any and every profession, got to do it.
Yeah, but he stepped up. Jimmy Butler stepped up for the Miami Heat, 100%. I do want to ask this also. Do you think the Rockets have a chance against the Lakers and the Raptors maybe against the Celtics? Do you think those two teams have a chance?
Yeah, I do think the Rockets have a chance. I picked the Lakers to win that series, but I do think the Rockets probably present as unique a challenge as there is for the Lakers, because the Lakers are one of those teams, kind of throwback in today's game, of they play big with, 2 centers a lot of the time, or 2 big men a lot of the time, with either McGee and Davis or Howard and Davis. So, those are things that play into that. But Houston, they'll spread it out. They'll shoot the 3. They'll make those guys defend on the perimeter. So I think a team that shoots the 3-pointer 50, 60 times a game like they do, they're going to give themselves a chance just by the numbers to pull off an upset. And
100%.
And an underrated defense from Houston, too, just because they can switch everything. Over the past couple of years, they become a very good defense. So I think they have a puncher's chance. Harden is an incredible scorer. So I do think they have a shot. And as far as Toronto, I think they have a shot as well. Their game 5 was very disappointing, but we saw they went down 2-0, almost 3-0, and then rattled off those 2 wins. So I would not be surprised if they force a game 7 in their next game.
I think they have a much taller order than the Rockets do personally, just because of the matchup, really.
Yeah.
But, the Rockets, they got James Harden. They got Russell Westbrook now. I feel like if the Rockets can pull this off, it just might be their year.
Yeah.
If they can pull it off against LeBron and the AD, I think, I don't see anything that can really stop them. They were taken to a game 7 by Oklahoma City Thunder, and now they've beaten the Lakers. So, could potentially. I don't want to say if, because I could be wrong. But I think it could be their year.
It might be a little biased because I cover them a little bit, and I obviously enjoy them. But I'm going to continue to roll with the Clippers, whether they take on the Rockets or the Lakers. I think they're well equipped for either series. I think would be a battle. But if they can continue this, obviously they got the 2-1 lead on Denver right now. If they can pull that off, I like their chances against either of those teams as well.
Mr. Load Management can't be letting his team blow 20-point leads, though. Mr. Load Management keeps sitting down with 8 minutes left in the game. What are you doing, brother?
He hasn't been sitting in the playoffs. He's playing 40 minutes a game, so he's
All right, good. I was going to say, Mr. Load Management himself might get somebody worried, but
he's the Finals MVP, so he's got a little cred to him.
That's true. But right now, if you had to pick one person, who do you think will win the chip at the end of the season? Right now,
it's your guy. It's Mr. Load Management. I think he is
Mr. Load Management.
I think when it comes down to it right now, in terms of playoff basketball, he's the best player in basketball. Better than Giannis, better than LeBron. He's better than anyone in the NBA. in the playoff level with his offense and his defense. So as long as he's on the court, he's the guy I'm going with. So I'm going with Kawhi.
He's in the conversation for the best in the league right now, for sure. I agree with that 100%, despite the load management. But this is why I would say Giannis is, though, because not only is he good on all sides of the court, he's just a dog, man. He just brings a nasty attitude with him that just cares about winning, and that's what I love about Giannis. He's just a dog. He'll fight you. He'll scrap with you on the court. He's a dog, man. That's why I love Giannis.
Giannis is amazing, and there's no question he's one of the handful, like you said, of best players in basketball. And, obviously next year this conversation will be different too, because there's a couple of guys who are on that list who have been hurt this year. Kevin Durant will be back. He's on that list. Steph Curry will be back. He's on that list. So, it just shows how deep the talent pool is in the NBA. Any of these guys are right up there and can carry their teams to all the way to the championship.
These playoffs, as good as the quality has been, these playoffs have been weird without Golden State. I will say that.
Yeah.
It hasn't been the same.
Yeah, I'm pretty certain they'll be back next year, health permitting. It seems like they're going to reload and be back at it and present another wrinkle into what's always a crazy battle in the Western Conference.
All right. Definitely 100%. But I got two more things that are sports related and then one more thing after that. So for football, I just want to know Super Bowl pick, just right off the bat before the season starts, and players you like right now.
Yeah, Super Bowl pick, I guess, I know it's really hard to repeat in football, but I'll go with the Chiefs again, just because I think Patrick Mahomes is so dynamic and what he powers that offense to be. He's obviously still such a young guy, and that core is still there. And you're talking about players. He's the first one I think of looking at this year. Of course, quarterback is always one of the highlighted positions, Lamar Jackson. Those are probably the two that I'm looking forward to seeing the most. And I'm definitely curious to see what Tampa Bay looks like because the unique situation, Tom Brady, his first new team ever. They're loaded offensively, just bringing in Leonard Fournette on top of, Evans and everyone else they have. So I'm really curious to see what they look like and to see what Cam Newton in New England looks like with Brady not there for the first time in 20 years. So those are the things football-wise that I'm excited to see.
I'm curious about Cam Newton after, his fallout with the Panthers, especially, with the attitude that he's got a chip on his shoulder that he's kind of, let everybody know about. Like he has something to prove, after the way he got let go, which in a way I feel like he does. Cam Newton, I think, is great and has revolutionized the game of football for sure. And I think Lamar Jackson is the next guy to do that with his athleticism, the way Cam Newton's done that. But, I definitely feel like he has something to prove this year, 100%.
Yeah, you're talking about a former league MVP. So someone who I'm sure has a chip on their shoulder after essentially being told by his former team that they don't want him anymore. So I'm sure he'll be ready to really put out as strong an effort as he possibly can.
Yeah, I am curious to see what Tom Brady is going to look like as well. I'm sure, now that he's got weapons, he's going to look great for another year or two, as long as he's got, what he needs behind him, which the Bucs have done a good job in making sure of that. They have a decent defense as well on top of all the different weapons they've got on offense. Leonard Fournette, I'm excited to see what Rob Gronkowski is going to do as well. Especially after taking a year off and, being able to rest, being able to recover. See, he was getting tackled constantly throughout the 7 years of his career, running guys over to falling down on comfy ass mats over at WrestleMania. That's stuff Vince McMahon is able to do. Vince McMahon is 75 years old. That's stuff Vince McMahon is doing.
That's true. He's still at it.
He's doing the same thing as a 75-year-old man. But No, I am excited to see what Rob Gronkowski is going to do, definitely. But
Yeah, I am too.
I am biased. I do have to pick my Eagles. I'm one of those guys who picks their team every year, even if they go 0-16 over here looking stupid.
Yeah.
But I do always like to say if I wouldn't pick the Eagles because, I can't just be basic and go with my team all the time. But I honestly agree with you on this. I think, the Chiefs just have such a dynamic offense that, I don't see a lot of ways to stop them. They haven't really found a way to, stop Patrick Mahomes from being able to score in any game he's played. I think there was maybe one game where they scored less than 20 points, and that was really it.
Yeah.
But, that's the thing. I don't see any way that you can stop Patrick Mahomes, and I feel like all these teams have tried and just haven't been able to do it. I think the one team I could see doing it is Lamar Jackson and the Ravens because of how dynamic their offense is. The Bucs have a dynamic offense as well, but I think Patrick Mahomes has proven a good defense with them just isn't enough, and I really, I want to see somebody be able to stop him, but I love it when he gets in the zone so much, especially when he did it in the Super Bowl late in the game the way he did it this past year.
Yeah.
Right before pandemic and everything. That was a beautiful way to end pre-pandemic life, even though it was a month too soon.
Yeah, it was an amazing game, and like you said, we'll kind of believe it when we see it, as far as someone slowing them down and seeing if they have an answer for that.
Yeah, but I agree with what you said about football, and these are just some of the guys that I'm looking forward to seeing. Even though Todd Gurley didn't do as much last year, that's a guy I look forward to seeing. Saquon Barkley, even though his team's going to go 1-15 again, for like the 17th year straight, looking like the Knicks out here. New York is just having a miserable time.
I know. That's why I can always, have the Yankee pride of them being my only winning team. So it's something.
And listen. I honestly feel like you're betraying New York a little bit because you've been smiling so damn much. New Yorkers are already angry people to begin with.
I mean, like I said, I got the best of both coasts. I grew up here in LA, so I guess I can't quite fully claim everything that comes with New York.
LA people are some pretty happy people overall. I've been blessed enough to be able to connect with a lot of comics from LA during this time, and they are a real pleasure to talk to. New Yorkers are great as well, but they do like to get angry sometimes. Yeah, I love them, but that is true.
Different lifestyles, different cities. I know how it goes.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like you said, you got the best of both worlds. You're like Hannah Montana from the Disney Channel out here. But I do want to get one more thing before we end the show officially. Do you think we could just get a soundbite for the show? I can maybe play it before one of the shows goes on air. If you could just basically just say, "Hey, everybody, this is Jesse Kass, and you are listening to the Roundtable on Hamilton Radio." You think that would be cool?
Yeah, of course.
All right. So I'm assuming you got all that.
I think so. I think I got it.
Whenever you're ready.
Hey, everybody, this is Jesse Kass, and you're listening to the Roundtable on Hamilton Radio.
Boom. I love it. I was gonna say, and I think my cat, she just was able to stop the cat from meowing. She's feeding him his wet food right now, and she just gave him his medicine and everything. So he's been a little asshole for the past minute and a half. So she stopped it just in time. That was clutch. I love it.
If the soundbite is me featuring your cat, then that works too. Throw it on there. I'm sure the audience will love it.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah, no, you stopped that just in time. That was clutch. Just like Mr. Load Management, right?
Yes, absolutely. Mr.
I know
Load
you
Management.
love that man. But I do want to say thank you for coming on. I appreciate it. I really had fun with the conversation that we had. I definitely hope to have you back on again. And I did put in a pitch for a pro wrestling podcast for Believe. they did get back to me, and they didn't really give me a time to set up a call, even though I gave them my availability. But I definitely hope to work with you in the future 100%. And I hope to have you back on here. So once again, thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for having me. And yeah, definitely would love that and hope to look forward to that in the future. But yeah, we'll definitely stay in touch and love to do this again. And yeah, thank you again for having me on.
All right, everybody, this has been Jesse Kass here on the Roundtable on HamiltonRadio.net, channel HR2. We'll be back same time, same channel next week. Deuces, everybody.
Nobody quiet. We're gonna try a seance. Communication and communion with the world's greatest icon. Station as a human, yet he's listening to my song. Hype join. This that no nigga with the bass and the bang. Make it do, yo. Hit you with the 5 elements like 5 elephants. Let him know I'm relevant. I'm heaven sent, telling him we're from a whole nother galaxy. I'm actually born from the static sea. Ass to be crazy. I'm trying to be amazing. Next big thing kinda has a nice ring. Bada boom, bada bing.